But a big warm welcome to you on the stream today. It's Amal Epinobi at PragerU, and we also have...
Oi, we're very excited to have you here on the stream today. All the way from Ireland across the pond.
All the way from Ireland.
They ran out of potatoes, so we had to find a new life over here in the United States of America.
I was brought over as an indentured servant and hasn't been too great for me.
Potato famine.
There was no pot of gold at the end of this rainbow.
Lay's potato chips. I'm actually part Irish.
Are you?
I am.
What percentage?
I have no idea.
Oh.
I don't do Ancestry.com. There's no way I'm giving these people my DNA.
I'm part Irish as well. I don't know what percentage either, so we share that.
You're part Irish?
Yeah.
Surprising.
Yeah, my the white side of my family is like Irish and French, I want to say. What about you, Taylor?
What do you mean? I have
You're all
zero
Norwegian.
Irish.
Zero.
I'm Norwegian, Swedish, all that good stuff.
Oh, okay.
Nordic. We'll do a Nordic accent one of these days.
I don't even know
that'll
what
be
that
our next
sounds
one.
like.
You don't know what a Nordic...
No, I don't. Like, what is that? What is like an English-speaking
Sweden?
Norwegian? I mean, I've heard them talk.
We are happy to have you
Anyways, I'm
here.
sure people are tired of this.
You guys are tired of the accents. Anyways, we've got plenty of stories to talk about today. The first one is just going to be, the detriment of leftist thinking coming full circle. So I wanted to show you this little video that sort of went viral today of a reporter out in George Floyd Square who was going there to talk about a piece about police reform and a comprehensive bill for police reform. And I'm not going to tell you what happens next. I'm just going to show you this video here and you can, make your deductions from it. Here we go.
This bill of comprehensive police reform to be... just got to be careful here with some gunshots. Excuse us, excuse us. It sounds like gunshots. I'll let you know what this is. These seem to be gunshots.
Get down!
Wild.
It doesn't stop there.
Shit. Shit, where is that? We're okay.
Yeah, so
That's what police reform gets you.
exactly. Ironically enough, a reporter coming to George Floyd Square to talk about police reform encountered, a slew of gang-incited violence. So
We don't like it when these things happen, obviously not. But it's crazy to see leftist policies in action fail right in front of your eyes.
Right.
It's one thing to look at years of data of, like, let's say the minimum wage and see how that, when it's increased, it doesn't work. But when you have things happen like this right in front of your eyes that's caught on video that you can see don't work, I would hope that there's nothing better that can convince people on the left and say, okay, these ideas that we've had about police reform and defunding the police actually don't work.
there truly is nothing better than that. And in today's time where it's so hard to find the real truth and all of our media sources, all of our social media is quite frankly very, very biased, it is very hard to find the truth. And it takes videos like this where somebody is actively going to a place like George Floyd Square and talking about police reform and then experiencing gang violence within that time. It takes videos, these sort of visceral evidence to really change somebody's mind about these policies.
If you guys didn't know, today is the year anniversary. Is that the correct word?
Yeah.
I guess anniversary of George Floyd's death, whether or not that was from Chauvin or fentanyl, whatever it is. But it's been a year since then. And so a lot has happened in that time that we've seen in America with racism and Black Lives Matter destroying cities and all of the other crazy stuff that happened last summer, as I'm sure you guys all remember. If you lived in an urban area, I'm sure you very easily remember what happened last summer. Sure. And it's a good question to ask now, especially watching this video and seeing this drive-by shooting happen at the memorial for George Floyd, and wonder, what has been done to curb racism in this country? What has Black Lives Matter done to fix the problems that they profess so profusely and say that there are so many things wrong with our system? What has been done in this last year since George Floyd's death?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very interesting question because from what I've seen of the evidence towards that, I've seen a lot of Instagram posts of black squares, a lot of people virtue signaling and saying, I support BLM on social media and in their personal lives, and maybe wearing Black Lives Matter t-shirts that they bought from Black Lives Matter, funded them with the $90 million that they received last summer alone. And yet none of that money has gone towards the black community. None of that money has gone towards curbing crime within the black community. And we still have this rhetoric of trying to defund the police when we clearly know that it does not work. And we do have another example of that. So this reporter and this video here is not the only example of this happening right in front of your face, disproving your beliefs right then and there. So over this past week, a UK Black Lives Matter activist by the name of Sasha Johnson was shot in the head while attending a party over in the UK. And when this story originally broke, obviously, it's a very sad thing to happen to this woman, but the left ran with this story and said, well, it's because she is so vocal about her activism. I can't believe that somebody would target her for her support of Black Lives Matter and for her being on the front lines of the Black Lives Matter movement. And there was a lot of anger circulating. People on the left were using it as proof that America and that the countries in relation with America with this Black Lives Matter movement are somehow racist and are somehow representative of white supremacy. Come to find out, we now have evidence that she was actually involved in what was not a targeted attack against her, but a gang shooting that was meant to occur at the party of which she was attending.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild, but people on the left want to paint it as a story and say this is because she was a Black Lives Matter supporter. Right. You know why nothing has gotten done by the Black Lives Matter people? Why we're not seeing anything be accomplished is because America was already not the racist, horrible place that people said it was. In the 1960s, it was like 60% of black women were domestic servants. Now that number is down to 2.2%. In 1958, it was like 45% or so of white people said if a black person moved in next to them, they would move. Now that number's 1%. And in the 1960s, it was white people who said that 18% of them had a black friend. Now it's up to 86% of white people say that they have a black friend. Racism has been solved in America, okay? But these people who were around in the 1960s, who worked in the civil rights movement, a lot of times where those things were really needed, well, what are they going to do now? They still need a job. Someone like Al Sharpton, who's been working in this industry, this Racism Inc. industry for years and years, still needs a job. And so they have to create this outrage. This is what they did with George Floyd's death. This is what they did with Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery. And Michael Brown and Ferguson. They created this fake outrage to continue to raise money, to have jobs, and to make the world be divided.
Yes, and what does it boil down to? It boils down to people like that would rather have power and influence than have peace. And it was something that we have accomplished here in the United States. We did dig ourselves out of the hole that was systemic racism, that was, the civil rights movement back in the 1960s. And we were in a state of equality, of equal opportunity for everybody in this country. As I say many, many times, and you've heard me say it on this stream probably millions of times, as a black female in the United States, it has never been a better time to be me. It will probably never be a better time to be me in the United States. And yet, we still hear the same rhetoric around white supremacy, systemic racism, and racist institutions within America. And it's simply not true.
It's funny that you say that because you're black. I mean, you said you have some Irish, but you're black.
Yes.
And it's like the people going to these marches and protesting against all this police violence and all of these things happening. It's like in LA, it was 90% of the people who were at the BLM protests were actually white people.
Right.
It's like so many of the actual black people in America stayed home or didn't go because they didn't want to. A lot of them, I feel like, don't really care. And if they wanted to actually fix the problems in the black community, don't you think that there would be more African Americans at these Black Lives Matter rallies or protesting? But there's not. It's like all these white people, white leftist virtue signaling, trying to make it seem like they really care about black people.
Right. And it's so funny because you'll see all these videos of reporters going out or political commentators going out and actually talking to the people within these communities, within Minneapolis, within Portland. And they talk to white people who happen to be on the left, and they tout the same buzzwords, the same rhetoric that you hear on the left every single day. Oh, we need to fight against the oppression of black people. We need to help them. We need to help them get into school. We need to help them get their voter ID. We need to stop them from being suppressed as voters in the United States. And then they go and talk in the same community to the black people there. And the black people will look at you like you're crazy, thinking that they can't get a voter ID, that they can't get into school, that they can't get a job, that they can't get a mortgage. It is simply virtue signaling by the white left because they have a savior complex and they feel as though what they're doing is helping a community that is less than they are.
I would assume that most of the people who wrote the articles and things or the tweets for sure, blue check mark leftist Twitter, who talked about this lady getting shot in the head, which is of course very sad. But talking about this lady were white people talking about BLM and the violence that she faces because of what it was. And then it was ended up being two black guys in gangs
Yep.
who shot her in the head.
Exactly. And there's no repercussions for that sort of false journalism. There's no accountability whatsoever. You can simply set that tweet out there and say, well, hey, this Black Lives Matter activist was shot because of her activism, because somebody racist came and wanted to take her life. And that story will run. And I mean, tens of thousands of retweets, hundreds of thousands, even millions of people saw this story, and that is what they took from it. Yet there's no accountability for that being false information and false reporting.
I know people can be made martyrs just for false information. If enough
Right.
blue checkmark leftists on Twitter come together and say that they're going to support a person or a cause, even if it makes no sense and it's not real, that person or cause can become a martyr.
Yeah.
Because they can get away with whatever they want. They can get away with whatever they want. I mean, there are articles and articles and articles that came out for the last, 4 years of the last administration, things that were blatantly false, and they were proven false by tons of other conservative people and political pundits, whatever it is, and there were almost no retractions from these left-wing media sources or journalists saying that, oh, we were wrong, because they don't need to retract it. There used to be a time where journalists had integrity and would say, okay, here's what we're reporting on. If we get something wrong, then we're not going to put it out, or we're going to make a retraction. That is no longer the case anymore. But social media and headlines being so fast and everyone trying to prove their agenda, I mean, there is no more journalistic integrity.
Yeah, the stories that we run with are the stories that come out the fastest, and that's what happened T for T with this UK Black Lives Matter activist being shot. And as much as social media has connected us as a people, and it is a great thing in terms of keeping up with what's happening in the world, it has created this beast of misinformation and falsehood completely and utterly, and people are just running with this story even now today.
It's like with the kid, what was the... Taylor or Alma, what was the kid who was he was at Washington D.C. and everyone reported that he was harassing this Native American man? What was that kid's?
Sandman?
Yeah, Nick Salmon, right? And everyone comes out immediately. They see this picture and they say, this kid should die. This is white supremacy. This picture's this kid's face. CNN, all these different outlets. They say this, and then it comes out. It's like, oh, they were actually harassing him. They were hurling all these slurs at him. They were saying terrible, mean things to this kid.
Yep.
And he was just standing there. Right? So it's like you jump on the story, leftists, immediately when something comes out. And 99% of the time when you don't have all the information, you're going to get it wrong. But they don't care. And then, luckily, I mean, with the Nick Sandman thing, I mean, he sued CNN for millions of dollars, right? And was luckily able to do something about that. But that doesn't happen in most scenarios. Most scenarios, the left is completely able to get away with whatever they want, say whatever they want, and there's no repercussions ever.
It's very true. And I mean, going back to this UK Black Lives Matter activist, we saw this story break yesterday morning. And since yesterday morning, it has taken a whole 180 as to what we were hearing prior. And that's why we waited to even report on it to you guys, because we didn't know what was happening. And it turns out everything that I had read on Twitter yesterday and read through the news yesterday was false. They were just promoting lies. And a lot of it is, like Will was talking about, this sort of white savior complex on the left and that sort of thing that they run with. And they feel like if we run with these stories, I'm doing something good. I can virtue signal. I'm helping people. And that brings us to an article that has come out recently called The Child Soldiers of Portland. Now, if you've heard about Black Lives Matter and all the riots that happened last summer, you know that a lot of them were coming out of Portland, specifically from Antifa and Black Lives Matter activists who are doing the work there. But you did not know, probably, that Portland is really famously the whitest city within America. That's what Portland is. And yet they had some of the largest riots, some of the deepest destruction within their community.
It's obvious. I mean, it's not anything that is surprising whatsoever, because they want them to think that they are so woke. I mean, Portland is one of the most leftist cities in America too. I mean, incredibly blue place. So people, of course, are going to be fighting for these causes. But it's so counterintuitive or counterproductive to believe that you're fighting for something while you then are destroying your own city and setting it on fire.
Right.
Remember Chaz? You guys remember Chaz?
I
It's been a
remember
while
Chaz.
since I've even thought about Chaz. What a massive failure that was. And this is what happens with these left-wing causes. They try them out, they see if they work, and they all fail. Like places like San Francisco, Portland, these places are petri dishes of leftist causes where they continue to experiment and try these things, and they always fail. And they continue to get away with trying it because no one else is going to tell them that they can't.
And again, when do we get concerned as conservatives is when it starts affecting children. And in Portland, that is really the case here. So not only is Portland one of the epicenters for this sort of Black Lives Matter destruction and rioting, it is happening with kids as little as 14 years old. Many of the arrests that were happening last summer during the riots that broke out within the city were kids at an average of 16 years of age. And this article writes, the culminating expression of this orthodoxy is violent street militias, calling themselves anti-racist and anti-fascist, smashing windows and torching property.
Nothing more anti-fascist than breaking the windows of a Wendy's.
Right.
You know?
And bullying anybody who doesn't think the same way you do.
Exactly.
That's very anti-fascist.
It's like, how can these people go about doing this? How can you be so misguided that you say that you're an anti-fascist or that you're fighting for freedom as you are literally torching buildings and hurting people and starting your own little community where you set up a garden and all the plants die? Like, it's embarrassing. You are an embarrassment, Chaz, and Black Lives Matter protesters in Portland. It's embarrassing to see what you're doing, the Antifa people.
Yeah, weren't there like multiple like shootings and murders in Chaz too?
Yes,
like,
and
after
rapes
they got
too,
rid of
like
the
horrible.
police? Like my dad has this joke that like when we watched Lord of the Rings, you know, he's like, "What are the orcs fighting for?" And, you know, like okay, they kill all the humans and destroy all their beautiful cities and everything, and now you're just gonna make the whole world into this like Mordor-looking thing, like with nothing living or nice or beautiful or in order. It's like when you think about stuff like Chaz, it's like that's what it descends into. This far leftism is only really bent toward like things like BLM. They're only bent toward pulling things down, pulling down institutions, pulling down all the traditions that we've made. And then like they have this obscure utopian vision, but then once they're in power, what do? You get like dying plants in a garden and people getting shot and anarchy. And, you know, is that really the way that we want to go?
Exactly. And it seemingly is the way that they want to go in cities like Portland because they're enforcing it within their schools. Now, City Journal in this article has gone and done an investigation, a months-long investigation into the 3 largest school districts within Portland. And what they found is that they were pushing critical race theory with the children there, teaching them that by virtue of being born with their specific skin color, that many of them had privilege and many of them didn't. And what they wrote here in this article is by perpetuating the narrative that America is fundamentally evil, steeping children in race theory and lionizing the Portland rioters, they have consciously pushed students in the direction of race-based revolution.
I can't stop thinking about the Lord of the Rings thing that Taylor said. We need thousands of leftists, tens of thousands.
And Amala's nodding and smiling as we make
she doesn't
more
know the
Lord of the Rings
references.
I don't know any Lord of the
Yeah, I
Rings
know,
references.
but just thinking of leftists as orcs and like we are the men of the West fighting against it is just an awesome thing to think about.
Well,
I wish that watching the left and all these things on TV was as entertaining as the Lord of the Rings, but it's not.
No.
And thinking about the race relation stuff, I mean, them teaching that in schools, it is a way to make America more racist. Before this, 5 minutes ago, I gave you guys a bunch of stats on things about how America is the least racist place in the world. All right, it's such a good place to live. But you are now encouraging people to be racist. When you're telling everyone that the world is racist when it's not, then you pit people against each other. It's so obvious when you tell people that white people are horrible and you tell white people that they're horrible and that all these underprivileged communities can't make it because of white people. What do you think's going to happen?
Right.
Black people are going to hate white people. White people are going to be way too scared to ever say anything to black people. No one's going to be able to joke around or even be friends anymore. Like, it's a terrible fate for our country.
Yeah, there's going to be so much polarization. And the left used to run on the doctrine, even back when I was working for the left, that we somehow lived in a system of which our public schools were a school to prison pipeline. Well, the right needs to do, what we as conservatives need to do, is call out the left for making a school to Antifa pipeline, a school to radicalism pipeline, because that's exactly what they are doing. They are teaching our kids in these institutions to hate America, to hate the systems of governance here in America, and to hate all of our institutions.
We need a school to Soldier of Gondor institution pipeline.
We are breeding orcs and Uruk-hai goblin men.
I need to see Lord of the Rings. I cannot keep up.
You have to. We're also breeding, well, at least in lots of institutions here in America, a love for communism. And
Yes.
with communism comes China.
Yes.
And I know a lot of you guys know me as Will Witt, but I've decided to make a big change in my life.
What's that change, Will?
I'm actually...
Who are you?
Did you not play the audio?
The audio's gone.
Come on,
This
Amala.
is the risk of doing this live.
Amala.
That was who he is.
You
inside.
ruined it.
You were supposed to say it.
You didn't have any audio on.
You were supposed to.
Oh,
This is the biggest
Amala.
live
Play
fail.
it again. Play it. John Cena. Oh
Oh my gosh. What a train wreck.
I can't believe you ruined it, Amla. You ruined it.
The setup was going
so
so
I
great
know.
too.
I know.
Oh, we were tracking.
It's okay. Guys,
No.
I'm crying, guys. So if you know me, I cry when I laugh. And these are real tears. Oh
it's
my
okay.
gosh.
Tears of joy. Guys, I bring up John Cena as my new alter ego. Not for any real reason, but because
No.
John Cena is now in the news today. He apparently speaks Chinese, and he
Yes.
apparently bows down to the Chinese, according to this new video from him. And we want you guys to take a listen. I don't know how many of you guys speak Chinese, but we will read you the dialogue as well of what he said.
Yes, and just to preface it, so John Cena was in the movie Fast and Furious 9. He was promoting said movie, and during said promotion, he mentioned Taiwan, and when referencing Taiwan, he referenced Taiwan as its own country. Now, the people in China, the CCP, did not take very kindly to that and went after him very, very hardcore. So this was John Cena's response to that.
你好，中国，这是叫西娜。我必须说，现在，在《速度与激情》中，我做很多采访，很多，所以在一个采访，我有一个错误，所有人问我，如果我可以用中文，速度与激情就有人给我很多资讯 information。所以很多采访，很多 information，我有一个错误，我必须说现在就是很重要，我爱更尊重中国，更中国人，我很抱歉对我的错误，对不起，我很抱歉，你必须了解。
All right, we get it. Okay.
I show you the whole video, even though you don't speak
Yeah.
Chinese, just so you can get a view of his very sorry body language towards the Chinese people. What he said to them was, "I made one mistake. I have to say something very, very, very important now. I love and respect China and Chinese people. I'm very, very sorry about my mistake. I apologize. I'm very sorry. You must understand that I really, really love, really respect China and the Chinese people. My apologies."
Hey, John, why don't you say I'm sorry one more time? Are you very, very, very sorry, or are you just very, very sorry?
He's very, very sorry about the information that he put out.
Well, he should be. Because if he's not sorry, then NBC Universal is going to lose billions of dollars from Chinese markets.
Exactly. So they made more money from China with this movie than they did from the US or any other country.
Yeah, well, I don't know if... I guess people in America still watch the Fast and Furious
They
movies.
do.
I haven't watched it since Tokyo Drift. But these people... It is about being more beholden to corporate interests and more beholden to countries that are communist than you are to your own country that promotes freedom. You're more tied to the money and all of that instead of actually promoting the freedom. People see the bad things happening in China. They see the communism. They see how people are suffering, but they don't even care about that. And these same celebrities, like LeBron James, you know, also for another example of someone who bends over backwards for China and does all these different things for China, you see them talking about inequality in America. Oh, America's so racist. America is this horrible place. Well, they don't say anything about China because that's where they get their money from.
Right. And as somebody who claims to be so masculine as John Cena does, it's very, very strange that he's decided to bow down to China and just submit this horrible apology statement to them just to garner wages from it.
Well, it's like just like wrestling is fake. All of these people's actually allegiance to America is fake.
Right.
Okay. If they had a real allegiance to America, then they wouldn't be doing this. And I mean, it's crazy because someone like John Cena or LeBron James, these guys are already super rich. They could so easily come out, win a ton of support from patriotic Americans, come out and say, yes, we love this country and I no longer want to take money from China because I really care about America. But they don't do that. They don't do that. Even with all the money in the world, even with all the respect in the world, they still don't do it because the money is more important to them than actually standing up for something that is right. That is why when you hear woke celebrities talking about inequality in America, but refuse to call out inequality around the world, other celebrities who refuse to call out what's happening in Israel, like that kind of stuff, like you have no reason to believe anything that they say. No reason to believe anything that they say because it is all for their own vanity. They do it for their own vanity and to make you think that they care so much. In reality, saying something like this, they care nothing about you and they care nothing about what's actually happening in the world. If they did, they would call it out.
Yep. You can tell it's just for their own self-interest, just to promote themselves, just to make money off the corporations that want them to go and spout this sort of garbage. They care nothing about your daily life. They care nothing about the American people. They care about their own self-interest. There's so many examples of this happening time and time again. We all saw with Chrissy Teigen. She's a very big virtue signaler for the left. We came out recently and heard the story of her telling young girls to go and kill themselves. She has no interest in your well-being or in your health. She has interest in virtue signaling to you and promoting her own corporate interests. That's all it is.
I get that everyone is beholden to someone, okay? I don't want to say, and I can already see the comments right now saying, you are beholden to fracking billionaires. Yeah. You're beholden to all the donors who want you to do stuff. I can already hear you leftists in the comments typing that, okay? Right. So don't even waste your keyboard space. But I'm saying that, like, there's a difference between being beholden to someone. We all have leaders and people that we have to answer to. That is different than when you have someone who you're beholden to, who you know is actively committing evil across the world. Right. I mean, this is a huge country. This isn't one person donating, $1 million to an organization or something like that. This is an entire country that is torturing and killing people. Right. A horrible place, and you don't call them out, and you're already rich. That is when it is a horrible thing. There are big differences to who you are beholden to and who you choose to be beholden to. You don't have to be anybody's, you don't have to be anyone's female dog, okay? You can be your own person and stand up for things that you believe in because you know that it is right. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is looking, all right? But people don't have integrity anymore, especially these celebrities.
Yeah, and it's a whole nother thing to not only refuse to call them out and refuse to take ownership of the own words that you said, but to come back and say you love the Chinese government. You love what they're doing in their country. You love them when you know that you grossed $26 billion off of your last movie there in China. It's insane to me. It's insane. And it's just another example of just bowing to the woke mob or to whoever has, your interest or your money in their hands.
I don't like it. I cannot stand by. I mean, this is why I don't watch any movies anymore. Any new movies that come out. I mean, I don't watch anything. I know you wanted to go watch A Quiet Place too, Amla. But
I do.
I'm sure there's some Chinese ties in there too that I can't support.
That you can't support.
I actually don't know. They could be good people. Anyway, but it's like, again, I've talked about this before with the companies and celebrities and all these types of people who don't support your values and are hiding things from you and not calling out evil. Like, don't support these people back. Don't support the things that they're doing when you know that they are committing evil acts. Okay? It's like I didn't watch the new Mulan movie because of that very same reason. Cancel my Disney Plus membership because of that very same reason. Right? It's like you have to be willing to do that. And it means nothing if I just do it, okay? What is it, $4.99 a month for Disney Plus? Like that's nothing to Disney. But if everyone who supports these things does it, and we all go and cancel these big organizations, this is what I was talking about yesterday on the stream. If you guys watch, we go live 2:30 p.m. PST, 5:30 p.m. Eastern every single day about canceling them back. We're using the left's warfare against them. Cancel them back when they do horrible things to us. That's what we kind of have to do.
Exactly. You need to vote with your dollar. You need to boycott businesses and corporations that aren't going to be having your interests at heart. And you know who I'm going to be boycotting and I won't be going anywhere is Sephora.
Me neither. I'm done with makeup.
Will is done with makeup and I'm done with Sephora's makeup. And the reason is that they canceled an influencer of which they had a deal with by the name of Amanda Ensing. And we got the opportunity to have her here at Prager University to film her story for Stories of Us. So I do want to show you a little promo of that. You can check it out at prageru.com and click the watch button.
Me, but whenever I started speaking up on my views, they said I didn't fit in with their values of inclusivity, that they disaffiliated with no explanation. My name is Amanda Ensing, and this is my story. So I was born in Richmond, Virginia, but as a baby, we moved to Tennessee, so I don't remember anything about Virginia. All my memories are growing up in Tennessee. Growing up in the South, these are the nicest people I've ever met. They are kind, they are welcoming, we call it Southern comfort here. And they saying I don't see color is racist. I think it's racist to say I see color because we are all human. And when you come to the South, people just treat you like people. We're all people, we're all human. So I grew up in a very conservative household, and my mom worked multiple jobs, so she was always for the working class, for hard work. We're pro-God, pro-family, pro-freedom. My mom moved here from Puerto Rico, and the whole reason she moved to America was for the American dream. So my mom coming here was a big deal, and coming to college and getting a degree and being able to send money back to her family and then get her family to come here, and it was a huge accomplishment. I've always been into makeup, but I wasn't allowed to wear makeup until I got a little bit older.
And that's a little bit of Amanda's story. I would urge you to go and check out the rest because it does get very, very interesting. It's amazing to me that something like being a Christian conservative is enough to completely take away a brand deal or a business deal from you.
She talks about canceling later in the video and how Sephora canceled her. You ever been canceled?
I have been somewhat canceled. I've had a few.
Like mobbed?
No, I've never been mobbed.
I've been
Have you?
mobbed. Yeah, dogpiled. It was for, I made a video where, this is kind of fun to talk about, talk about my canceling story. I made a video where I called out migrants coming to Europe, basically coming in the thousands to Sweden and Germany and France, and in a lot of ways making those places a lot worse because these migrants weren't assimilating and they were destroying a lot of these places, okay? It's not just because, they're a different color, doesn't matter your race, it's just because of a different culture and they were not assimilating to the culture of Europe at the time and they were destroying a lot of things. And I made a video like this and oh man, the left did not like that video. It got about 1 million views in a day, and I think all of those views were from leftists who, this was on Twitter mostly, who took the video, retweeted it. Every big blue check mark leftist was retweeting it, and they were writing articles about it, saying I'm a racist neo-Nazi dog whistler, and all of these kinds of things, and that was pretty horrible to have happen. So I understand what it's like to be in that situation, to be dogpiled by every single person who's a Democrat on Twitter. It's pretty horrible.
Right. And it's difficult when your career is not revolved around doing what you do. Luckily for Will and I, we have a career that supports us in those endeavors. I can't imagine not having that and having people sort of pull the rug out from underneath you.
But it's different because it's like so many of these people, when I was going through that, getting canceled for that, whatever, getting dogpiled for that. They didn't give me any reasons about why my video was wrong. My video was incredibly well sourced by tons of different sources about statistics and how many people are coming and what's really going on there and crime. Like, it was very well sourced and backed up because I knew this was going to be a controversial video that I put out. So people didn't attack my ideas in it. They just said, he's a racist. This is horrible. This is shocker. Like, yeah, all these different horrible things. So they don't actually attack the ideas. That's the difference between something like a cancel culture and like a boycotting that I talk about. Because like cancel culture, it's like people coming on who won't even debate your ideas, who want to cancel you for having a difference of opinion than them, right? Versus boycotting something that you know exactly what it is, you know that they don't support you, so you no longer have to give them your business. It is two totally separate things, right? And so I don't support cancel culture, but supporting a business that you don't want to support anymore yourself, it's a totally different thing, you choosing with your money. That's capitalism.
Yeah. Completely. I mean, that's how we should look at everything. Don't patronize somebody or somebody's business that is not supporting you in your own endeavors and in your own interest. It's if anything, it's going to harm you in the end. If you keep supporting these large corporations that are pushing this leftist ideology, they carry a big stake within what happens within our country, whether or not you believe that or not. So you patronizing their businesses is only going to harm you in the end.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, and I think you also have to figure out where the line is as well. Like, Starbucks for a while was doing, back in the day, everyone was freaking out because Starbucks went from like snowflakes on their cups to just a red cup. And it was like, oh my gosh. And it's like, okay, whatever. But now we're getting to where like someone like John Cena is sitting here speaking in Chinese, apologizing profusely to, Xi Jinping for, whatever, like acknowledging that, something against China's political interests. Right. And, whenever it's that egregious to where you have someone who is kowtowing and bowing down to a regime that is literally has people in concentration camps and is trying to commit genocide against the Uyghur people and pushing their agenda all over the world, steamrolling everything while America's worried about our military ads for showing that I have two moms and that's why the military is great, because they let someone like me in. And our enemies are laughing at us and China's steamrolling and everything. And like, we have our companies that are supporting all this and enabling it and making China's dominance extend even further by supporting this kind of stuff. And at that point, it's like you as a consumer need to start voting with your dollar and need to start pushing back, because the buck has to stop somewhere. And we're not at Starbucks cups on Christmas. Maybe that was your line, but if there's got to be some line.
Yeah, I mean, like, products are great and everything, and it'd be great to have your Starbucks drink and to keep going to Sephora and to keep drinking your Coca-Cola. But in the end, it's worth it to really stand up for your views and really do something courageous. And being courageous is doing the right thing when nobody else is doing it, and doing the right thing when nobody else is looking. And that's what you have to do, because while these products may be great, these products are also behind leftist ideology. And what also comes with leftist ideology is this socialist, communist, Marxist ideology. So you are sacrificing really your rights, your freedoms in the end, if you will continue to patronize these businesses that have nothing to do with what you want out of your life, your own success.
I know. I almost say that America isn't even a country anymore, and that's really sad to see. We're just so controlled by corporate overlords. It's like,
right.
What are we anymore? The politicians, the celebrities, the media. I mean, Jeff Bezos, he owns the Washington Post. He's buying, what was it, MGM, the entertainment group Amazon was buying yesterday for like $9 billion. Like, they're all controlled by the corporate interests. It's absolutely wild what's going on in this country.
So you can stand and you can fight back and you can stand by your views and you can, wither the storm that we're all going through right now, or you can cower to a mob that does not care about you, that only wants to control you. And in the end, even if it's a hard battle to fight, you should stand up and you should tell the truth. I think a celebrity who's done that recently was Mark Ruffalo. He had come out and said that Israel was committing genocide against its people. And he came out today recently saying, you know what, I take that statement back. It was very inflammatory. It was hyperbolic. I don't believe that Israel is committing genocide. And he is getting a storm of leftists just coming after him, trying to cancel him. But he did the right thing. He did what John Cena did not do. He did not cower to the left. He did not double down on his statement. He actually looked into the facts and came back and he said, you know what, I was wrong.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mark Ruffalo he's always been pretty much a simp for the left.
Yes, he has.
So this is very surprising to see from him.
No.
And it sucks that he's being canceled like that, but this is what happens. You give the left an inch and they take a mile. So you go to that leftist culture, you embrace the left and you do everything they want, and then you disagree with one thing. You could agree on 99.99% of everything they say,
right,
and then there's one little thing you disagree with and they completely destroy you.
Right. And we as conservatives, we bash the left a lot, and Mark Ruffalo is a leftist, but I will give him kudos for actually coming out and saying the truth.
Credit where
needs
credit's
to be
due.
done. Credit where credit is due.
Well, I think you'll like this question. Eric asked, how can these people claim to be right-wing when they are so against corporate welfare?
There's a difference between capitalism and crony capitalism, all right? When you have corporate interests controlling this country, when you have people who get elected to Congress, who get elected in city councils, all these different things, governors, who get money from these shadow corporations who are basically buying them off, that's not capitalism, okay? People think that this is like some product of capitalism. It's not capitalism. That is our bureaucracy running amok with corporatist money. That's why we're controlled by these corporatists, because we have these super PACs, and someone like Gavin Newsom gets bought a house for his campaign, all these different things. Like, that is not fair. That is not fair to have happen. It just means that the person who can get the most support from corporate interests is going to win every single election.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. Our country is controlled by these corporate interests. Think about in 2016. I mean, we couldn't even get Planned Parenthood defunded. Oh, it makes me so mad. I get so heated by this statement because it's not capitalism. It's not capitalism. Capitalism is, you have a sandwich, I have $5. I give you my $5, you give me the sandwich. That is all capitalism is. You can explain it in literally 10 seconds. It's so simple a child can understand what capitalism is. Mutual transactions. Crony capitalism is when corporatists are coming in to that same sandwich scenario and saying, no, we are going to give this guy $1 off for these sandwiches and give him special privileges so that the other guy can't make sandwiches the way that he likes to anymore.
Yep.
That is cronyism, which is essentially socialism in a way, because it's basically the government and these corporations work together to create this giant mega bureaucracy, right? So I am against these huge corporations buying out our politicians, essentially buying out our government, and I am for deregulating the market and ending these PACs and super PACs that we have in this country so we can actually get things done. If we got rid of these super PACs and PACs and made elections fair, introduce a public option, whatever it is, we would get so much better. We would get things so much better done in this country. Why do you think nothing gets done? Why do you think nothing gets done? Across the board. I mean, Google is the biggest donor, is the biggest lobbying organization in the world, donates millions and millions of dollars every year. And you know who they're donating to? Democrats and Republicans. They're donating to Republicans too. The same conservatives who come on and say, we support your free speech. We support ending big tech censorship. We're really going to do something about it this time. They do nothing. They're a bunch of rhinos and they do absolutely nothing. They don't care about you. They care about the money. This is why these big corporations should not be able to give this much money to all these politicians. That's what happens.
Wow. I feel like my eyebrows just got singed off with that.
It's such a dumb question. It takes 10 seconds to think about and say, this is not comparable. This is not the same.
Yeah.
It's not even comparable at all. They're two totally different things. Capitalism and this cronyism.
I told you he'd like that question.
I love that
you were
question.
right. I mean, we could do a whole stream, multiple streams about how we've sort of fallen faint from the actual definition of what capitalism is, what an actual free market is.
Yes, it is not a free market in America. Go to a Nordic country, go to Sweden, go to Denmark. Look at how their markets run. They are much more free than we are here in America with our regulations.
Yeah, we are shrouded with regulation and corporate loopholes. It's insane. We really are.
I'm not totally against regulations. There are times that regulations can be very good. I mean, go to third world countries and look at buildings. They all fall down all over the place because the government doesn't step in and give regulations for building codes. So yes, we need the government for some of these kind of things.
Why we're not libertarians.
Yes. But when you have corporations coming in and making regulations, like you have a corporation, let's say you have the biggest grocery store ever, right? And it comes in and makes a regulation and it lobbies the government and says, you have to make this regulation so that it costs this much to get this water heater put into your store and everyone has to have one. What happens when they do that? Well, of course, this big corporation can pay for it, but you know who can't pay for it? The little mom and pop business down the street who's trying to make a living, they can't pay for it, so they snuff out all the competition because they control the market and they pay off the politicians. This is what happens all across the country over and over and over again every single day.
Wow. I don't even think, do we even have time for another question, Taylor? No, I think that's a strong point to end our stream on.
We can end the stream there. I just hate that stuff because that is why America is being destroyed. That is why America is being destroyed, because of special interests. Get rid of the special interests and we will save this country.
That was quite a way to end the stream there.
Oh, yeah, it was a good way.
Very strong, very fiery. Like the redheads in Ireland.
I don't know what you both are looking at me like I've got some lucky charms for you or something.
You got something to say, Taylor. Say it. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Remember, go to PragerU.com to watch the stories of us. You can also go to PragerU.com to /donate to help us out and keep our videos free and keep us away from our special interests. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. 2:30 p.m. PST, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. We go live every single weekday. Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Peace.